Hi everyone, welcome to December and Christmas and Hanukkah and all the other things we have going on this month.
So what's going on in December other than Christmas and Hanukkah? You got any yoga stuff going on?
I'm actually dropping down a bit. I think I will be taking some time off around Christmas. The public classes that I teach online tend to go quite small anyway because people get really busy, but you can always book one-to-ones in with me if that's something that's you're interested in. And I still like to get questions, so get in touch and message me and ask me questions.
And how would someone get in touch with you?
They can message me on social media or use the form on my website, KaylaMcCormackYoga.com.
And there'll be links to that below.
Yeah.
Or not below,
links below.
In the show comments or whatever, the show description, whatever it is. There's links to both of our websites and social media. So use those.
Yeah. And then I was going to ask you, so what are you doing for Christmas this year?
I have to see all my family members I can fit in about 3 days around work.
Awesome. Are you busy around Christmas time? Is this a busier time for you? Or
people usually think it's a busier time, but I think it's as busy as any other time of year, really. It's just sometimes the shows are harder because people are out on office Christmas parties and they're hammered. Although New Year's Eve, I tell you, New Year's Eve is a great day of the year to gig.
Oh.
I recommend if you're looking for a night out in that horrible period of time between Christmas and New Year where nothing's open or where stuff's open but people aren't working and they're fed up because they've just been sitting at home for ages. That is a good time of year to do comedy and to go to a comedy night because the goodwill is there.
And where will you be then on those nights?
On New Year's Eve, I'm going to be in Nottingham at Just the Tonic. Don't think I have anything between Christmas and New Year, but I am in plenty of other places, mainly the northwest, although not exclusively. So in December, I'm in Leeds, Worcester, Eastbourne, so that's completely out of the way. Bicester, Paddingham, Bishop Stortford, Goulburn in the northwest, that's 2 nights, 2 Christmas shows, Congleton, Leeds and Nottingham. There may be other things that have come in since we recorded this. I keep the live page updated on my website, so you can always check that and see if things have been moved or added. I should again say I'm not the only comic on any of these bills. There'll be other comics there, but they're usually all right. They usually know what they're doing, so it's usually good. It's usually good to go to comedy, so go to comedy.
Yeah,
go to
like
comedy.
a full fun evening, not just you for 3 hours by yourself.
Yeah, which is fine because some people don't like me. It's a minority, but sometimes I'm not their favourite.
But do you think our listeners like you?
I don't know, maybe they just put up with me because your advice is so good. Like maybe I'm an inconvenience, or vice versa.
Or it could be the other way around.
Yeah, it could be, yeah. So happy Christmas.
Have a great Hanukkah as well. And any other holidays that I've missed that are going on this month?
Is there a pagan festival we've missed off or something?
Well, there's the winter solstice. That's was that Yule?
Yeah, to any druids that are listening. So enjoy the show. So here's an attempt at a joke. So when I was young, my grandmother hired me an Aerosmith for my birthday, right? So in response to that, you'd say, "Don't you mean Aerosmith?" Right?
No, because I don't know what either of those words are.
No, you know the band Aerosmith.
Yeah.
So how this would work would be, I would say, so my gran, when I was a kid, hired me an Aerosmith for my birthday.
Don't you mean Aerosmith?
No, that's what I wanted, but she thought it was an Aerosmith, and so she just hired me this bloke that I had to watch carve bubbles into a bar of chocolate. Because he's an Aerosmith. Because he carves arrows with his... Yeah? Mm-hmm. Is that any good?
No.
No. All right.
Sorry.
That's all right.
So, I have a question for you. If I were to just say energy, what comes to mind? Like, what do you think I'm talking about?
Oh, it means lots of things, doesn't it? Energy. So, I don't know. That's just very difficult. That's a very difficult word to actually... Don't you think?
Yeah, I know. I'm just wanting you to say something.
So, I don't know. Is it movement, sort of? But that could be in a more philosophical way than just like a body moving.
Oh, are you thinking about like kinetic energy in terms of work? So
sort of, yeah. But then there's potential energy and stuff like that, and then someone has more energy than, but that sort of means vigor, doesn't it? So that's used as an adjective.
Yeah, as in like being alert or sleepy, or is that what you mean?
Yeah, like throwing yourself into something. People say that person's got a lot of energy. If you're like working in a mine and you're just like hack. I feel like whenever you ask me a question, it feels like you're trying to trip me up and get me to say
no.
Like
I'm just trying to get you to say something that isn't what I would say. And your first answer about movement is not anything I would ever have said. I could have been talking to you about energy for about 15 minutes and I wouldn't have said it. So yeah, that's kind of like your physics definition of one form of energy. I'm supposed to be somewhat spiritual as well, aren't I? Well, I mean, like, you might ask someone who's like, I don't know, maybe they had a new baby and they're really tired, and the first thing they say energy, they say, the first thing they say might say like, oh, I have none of it.
Right.
The first thing they might think is like how they actually feel. You know what I mean? So I was just wondering what your thought process was and stuff. So you've gone straight for the like physics definition.
Only because I thought that was a better definition.
There's no right answer. No. I'm not a textbook.
No, again, I should stop approaching every question being like someone trying to trip me up. But what I mean, I found it hard to tangibly explain like what else comes to mind when I think of energy without it sounding like I can't. If we, like, for example, if you sort of said, "Oh, we all have an energy," I wouldn't know how to explain what that meant.
Right. So I think what you've said there, like, we have an energy. I think that is more like how you feel emotionally, maybe, or your mental state. You could say that is reflected in your energy that you put out. Would you say that is what you mean?
Well, maybe, but now I'm sort of thinking about food. Because that's fuel, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's different. So, like, I'm sure almost everyone is going to have experienced that point where you've been somewhere or you've done something, and someone walks into the room, and there's just like an instant,
well, like Bill Clinton
tension.
Or something.
No, tension.
Oh, sorry.
Like you feel almost afraid, but not physically afraid. Not like, oh my God, I'm scared. Not like that. But just like, oh, this person, they're always a pain. They're really argumentative. They make me tense. And everyone can feel it all equally. And they say, you can cut the tension in the room with a knife, So I would say like that is a form of energy. That person, what you could potentially say, has like this kind of negative energy. It makes everyone feel a little bit bad. And the same, you could say the same as the opposite. When someone that's always really positive and really upbeat and really nice, and it's genuine, you can tell when it's fake, so it has to be genuine.
Yeah.
Comes into a room and it's always like, oh, I feel a little bit more chill now because, that person was really nice and they're good to talk to, and, it's a bit, they got a good energy.
I try to start to think about what people are like when I go into a room now.
Well, I mean, those are two.
You don't mean charisma?
Charisma
there's a fine line between positive energy and charisma, though, isn't there? Because I just said,
I wouldn't say charisma.
I said Bill Clinton, sort of like, because they say that when he enters a room, everyone's like very drawn to him because he's extremely charismatic and stuff. Like Tony Blair kind of had it as well. But I don't remember someone saying that Bill Clinton's the only person that could sort of usurp Tony Blair in a situation where you'd enter the room and everyone was suddenly drawn to this guy because he was just so. But whether he's actually genuinely warm or kind of like weirdly psychopathic I don't know, because I'm wondering whether like, can you really see it's genuine in those situations or not?
In a way, even when you're pretending, it's somewhat true because you have to embody that. So like what makes a really good actor is the fact that they can embody what they're trying to get across. You can feel it. It's not just a case of like, oh, I'm saying lines and I'm trying to be angry, so I'm doing an angry face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you can feel it everywhere. And I think, so in that way, like, you might feel like you're pretending to be charismatic, but it doesn't matter because if your whole heart is in it, then you are. But what I was kind of thinking was like, so like you're saying about people who are, particularly charismatic or particularly have that good energy or that bad energy. But I suppose what I'm kind of thinking is you can also like have that energy in your life. So like whatever you keep telling yourself or embodying or doing over and over again is what is kind of like what you're going to get. That's what you're getting, because basically what you do is you planting the seeds in your life, and then you're going to get that back. Does that make sense? So if you're constantly negative, then that's what you're going to get back in your life. You're going to get constant negativity coming back at you.
Yeah, I think there's probably something to that, yeah.
Or karma.
Yeah, or it's perception, because, you can always reframe things, can't you? If you're positive, you reframe things as being positive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's probably the main basis for it, is that if you're constantly looking for the negative because you are negative, then you'll see it more when things go quite 100%. But if you're always on the positive, then you'll notice the positive things that are going well, not necessarily just the negative. But on the side of maybe karma or something like that, I think people don't really like that term because they automatically think it only applies to multiple lifetimes. But I've always thought karma is a really good explanation of now, right now. You could apply it to what's happening right now. If you're really mean and negative to someone, and then I don't know, just a silly example. Say you go to the shop and it was a bit the person behind the till or someone nearby or something, another customer was being a bit of an annoyance, and you kind of let go a little bit and voiced your opinion and stuff and got a bit confrontational. And maybe you're a bit stressed because you're on your way to an interview or something, and then you get to the interview and that's the dude in the interview. You'd be like, oh, bugger. So that's kind of the idea of karma, is that if you constantly put out negative, there's more chance that it's going to come back to you, but not necessarily in it's just more chance, isn't it? There's a chance that person could be someone that you really need to impress or show that you're a genuinely good person later. And then they're like, what? You just shouted at me at the grocery store, even though that might be the only time you've ever shouted at anyone at a grocery store in the last 3 years. It doesn't matter. If they've seen it, it's going to come back.
So that's just good politics, not good karma. That's just wisdom. That.
Yeah, but you could apply that for everything.
I would just sort of think that, not that butterfly effect or something. I would just, is that sort of, if you were just a prick to somebody in the shop, it's going to affect their mood, and then how they affect someone else, and then so on and so forth, potentially. And
potentially that could come back around to you.
It could do,
yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely.
There's a study I read about once where, I don't know if it's really related, but they did some sort of measuring of empathy or something, but they changed the way that during the experiment, but when you're waiting in the corridor, half the people, someone deliberately walked into them and called them a prick before they went into the.
Oh, right.
And it completely changed the results of whatever this study was, which I've forgotten, and so I'm badly briefed. But, one little tiny interaction completely changed the outcome of whatever study this is. I can't remember. And so replicate that in actual life. What does that affect? It affects your chances of messing up an interview. Because even if it's not the same person, you're potentially in a worse mood because of it.
And then on top of that, I mean, that's just talking about, I would say that the majority of people, I mean, sure, there are people that aren't aware, but, I would say the majority of people aren't going around trying to be buttholes. They're not I've got to be really careful or I might snap at any moment and shout at someone. I think the majority of people aren't really struggling with that. I'm not saying that there aren't people that struggle, but that same theory applies to every feeling. So if you feel overwhelmed and chaotic and slightly burnt out, and you're constantly saying that to yourself, and you're constantly putting it out there, and you're constantly oh, it's so chaotic, oh, my life, oh, the bus is never on time, things like this, then again, you're getting that back. So it's not just really obvious ones like anger and stuff. It's also the kind of more subtle emotions, if you want to call them that, If
you're stressed about the bus not turning up and stuff, you're only stressed about that one thing in your life that's not going well, and not about, whatever your living situation that might be good at that situation is. You've just that you're relatively comfortable otherwise and such. You don't, where was I going with that? I just don't expect everything to be good, maybe. So that's
yeah, but you would you not say you're a pretty neutral person? You say you're just looking for contentment, not happiness and not joy and things like that.
Yeah.
So then when you say that, that's what you're getting then, because that's all you're looking for.
I mean, it is important if the bus is late and you miss it. It's not like I'm not stressed.
Yeah, but I mean the positive side. So what you put out on a positive side is also going to come back to you. So if you're always neutral and you're never joyful, excited and happy, you're never going to get joy and excitement and happiness.
You're telling me I'm not joy.
No, I'm asking.
I am, but I think all in moderation, So, no, I know what I was going to say now. I was going to say that there's probably an evolutionary reason why you would fixate on the things that I think it's easier to fixate on what things need to be done that are going wrong than it is to bask in the already good things that you have in your life. Not that you take them for granted necessarily, but maybe it's like primitive man would be more worried about threats and things that needed sorting, like, you know, if the shelter wasn't right, it would be important that the shelter was sorted out. So they will fixate on the things that need to be done for survival, and so that they don't think, oh, I've got a lovely cave woman at home, or or a pet dinosaur or whatever. I know that doesn't work evolutionary, not in the time frame. I know the Flintstones was not chronologically accurate. I know that.
Damn it.
So it's just natural, I think, to be looking for the wrong things probably now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The brain is working to try to keep you safe.
So it's a natural thing to feel like that, even though someone could just turn around and slap you in the face and say, listen, look, this is going well, and you should not, you know, just because the bus is late, or accept it. You know. I'm not that I condone hitting people, but do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but if you wake up tired and you say to yourself, oh, I didn't sleep very well, I'm tired, and then all day you say to yourself, I'm tired, I'm tired, I'm tired, I'm tired, it's going to have the more bad effect than if you say to yourself all day, I'm all right, I'm just not, you know, not top of my game, but I'm fine.
Being tired is not a good thing, though, because I think your guard is slightly down, so everything's worse when you're tired, even if it's not because you're saying that you're tired, you just are.
Well, how about another one? How about, like, well, I can't do everything? That's a really common one. I can't do everything. You know, like when you're trying to get the dishes done, plus you've got to go do something else, plus you've got to nip out of the house, and you've got, oh, I can't do everything. That's like more of like an overwhelmed kind of emotion or energy. I'm not saying that people don't get busy and we don't have days where we think, Jesus Christ, you know, but I do think sometimes we have to be careful not to fall into those ruts. If you keep saying it to yourself, you're going to believe it. So
I think it's just getting your excuses in early, so when you get nothing done, you've already been saying it all day, haven't you? That's what it is.
Work for work's sake is what you know they call it, and that's like, oh God, the destruction of the human race is work for work's sake. Like, so much wasted time and energy and everything just goes into the fact that I have to be in this building from 9 to 5 or longer. And that is all. And if I just look busy and make sure I do what's expected, which is usually not very much, then I'm good.
Yeah, it gives people purpose in life, doesn't it, work? So.
Well, it's the wrong purpose. That's not... It doesn't really, does it?
Yeah, no, I'm not. Like, it's not the same type of... Not the same type of work as maybe it was.
I just feel like it's a process that potentially had merit before computers.
Yeah. I sort of was
like
kind of think like I meant
that.
Yeah, because if you had a job where, I don't know, bring miners back, but that's a tangible result to your day's work, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think working on a computer, it just feels like, you know, things just go into the void a little bit more and nothing ever really ends and stuff.
There's always a problem or an email you can reply to or whatever.
Yeah, but the actual, like, here's physically what you've achieved for, you know, especially if you're a painter and you finally get a painting out or something, that's like an actual a result. A tangible result is, you know, I love tangible results. I don't know if that's good about writing a joke, that when you've got that working, that's very satisfying, because that's like bit of mining. Yeah. That's my form of mining. Get the old diamond out of the coal. So I think, that's probably what you're probably right there. But the computers are bad for that.
I know. I just think like the first step to kind of, I know what's the phrase is like living your best life and feeling good and feeling really balanced with how things are. You know, how much time you spend on your career versus how much time you spend with family versus how much time you spend having fun. They're not 50-50 splits. You know, you have to decide what's important to you based on what's going on in your life right now. You know, someone who's straight out of uni might think career. That's what's important to me right now. And so they don't necessarily have a lot of time for other things. But then 20 years down the line, then maybe they focus on other things. So balance between what's going on in your life is always changing. It's not going to be the same for everyone, you know, for anyone. But the first step is noticing if there's an imbalance, and then that way you can kind of take that action. And the best way to do that is to just to notice, like you're saying, just that energy. How do you feel? How alert are you? What you're telling yourself? How's the energy in the room when you go to work? Just everything. Just noticing it.
Was there an analogy somewhere with
food? Like, because you know, like you can eat foods with slower release energy that rather than, I don't know, is there an analogy there maybe?
The universe is very cyclical. So even though you might not think like, even though we might not say that the universe is expanding or contracting or whatever, we're not going to necessarily know that kind of answers right away. We do know that like everything is energy on a physical level. So every piece of matter is just energy made into matter. So on every movement that we do is energy. So that's your kinetic energy in your body. And the way we keep our body warm, that is also a form of kinetic energy. So the way, because we're warm-blooded, we're not lizard people.
Not the royal family.
Apparently. Yeah. According to the conspiracy theorists.
Yeah.
No, we just started one ourselves then.
We haven't started that, believe me.
But... Oh dear. Okay, so obviously we've got this like actual energy and matter. So what happens when we eat is we, you know, say it's a plant. Let's go for plant. We grab the plant, we chew it, we swallow it, we eat it, and then our body takes that physical form and literally turns it into pure energy. It turns it into kinetic energy, and then we use it. We use it to move. We use it to stay warm, and that energy keeps us going. And then the plant that we ate use the energy from the sun and a bit of soil to create itself, to actually be made. If it didn't have it, it would never have made itself in the first place. And then once we eat, obviously we know not everything stays inside of us. And then it goes back and the cycle starts again. I just think that's really interesting. It goes back into energy as well. So like you eat it, it's heat, you put it out.
It's like that thing about what you're sort of talking about when people say that we're actually, because we are sort of technically stardust, aren't we?
You could say that. Yeah. So all heavy metals come from stars.
But we're all just like, I'm not, because you study this, I'm going to say something really moronic probably, but...
No, it's okay.
All of the,
I'm waiting.
All the matter and stuff that like came into, you know, being in the Big Bang, and the stars that then like formed the first atoms of stuff and whatever, we're all just comprised of that, aren't we? Yeah?
Yeah.
Because we're carbon-based sort of thing, so we're all just like...
Everything.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're a carbon or not.
Oh,
everything.
Yeah. Some people find some sort of comfort in that. I don't really. I sort of find it terrifying, but...
Terrifying? Why?
No, I just saw Robin Ince do the comedian Robin Ince. You know Brian Cox does the Infinite Monkey Cage with Robin Ince.
No, I know Brian Cox. I don't know Infinite Monkey Cage.
Well, it's a BBC Radio 4 comedy show, which I don't actually listen to really, but they do it together, and it's kind of about science. And they get quite excited about science, and they do. I know Robin Ince has done like a Christmas show called like Secular Carols for Godless People or something like that. I quite like him, really. He's got lots of enthusiasm about what he says. He's obviously smart and such. But I remember seeing one of his shows, and kind of the ending was about how it's a really comforting, nice thought to think that, you know, we derive from stars, and then when we die, we go into ashes and the same thing. And I just sort of kind of, I don't know, it just kind of made me not really feel very I don't know, I didn't feel as positive about it, but I guess it's a nice poetic sort of cycle if you want to think of it like that. But I would feel mugged off because, you know, I'd rather go to heaven. So well, there's no reason why both couldn't happen, I suppose, is there? But
yeah, I mean, but there is no you if you think about the universe like that.
Yeah.
Like when you die, there is no... It's like knowing that the life you have now is your finite life. That.
Well, it's the only one comprised of me, I suppose, isn't it? Because parts of me used to be, you know, one part of me might have used to have been a sunflower, and one part of me is like used to be a bit that got thrown out of a volcano 500,000 years ago and stuff, you know, and it's all... Is that... Am I talking crap there, or what?
No, I mean, to some extent you could say that.
But some people think that's cool, but it's not like I've got the attributes of sunflowers and volcanoes in me, so it's not like I'm Thor, is it?
That would be better.
Like, part of me is penguin or something, so I can swim better. It's not, is it just one atom? It's like...
It might not even be that much.
I suppose it is quite, if you want to think about that, it is quite, not miraculous, it is quite fascinating to think of it like that, I suppose. But I don't find any comfort in it. It doesn't make me feel like, oh, I'm just part of this cycle of, you know, energy and atoms, and my time goes and it becomes something else that's completely not me. I don't know, I don't feel comforted by that. It's interesting, I guess, and it's a nice It's kind of poetic, but it's not.
Maybe the kind of comfort they're looking for is more like whatever decision you make, like eventually things are so cyclical that, not that it's not going to last, but like, it's kind of like taking the pressure off, like if you were to think about today and, if something happened today that really bothered you, it's like, yeah, but sometimes you have to ask yourself, remember that in 5 years, is it actually something that's life changing? Is it actually something that's going to change more than 5 years? How about the world? How about other people? And then before you know it, it's like, oh, well, actually, it was nothing. When you think about it, really big. Even I'm not saying that it wasn't actually something worth, that it wasn't something important to you or bothersome or whatever, but I just mean like, to some extent, maybe that's the kind of comfort that you feel is like, well, the big picture. If my post on Instagram doesn't work or looks stupid or I make a fool of myself, what's the big deal? There is no big deal. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Maybe that's the kind of comfort in it you could find.
Yeah, maybe the impermanence of stuff and what really matters, I suppose. The perspective, perhaps.
Yeah, perspective. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on crystals? Do you have any?
I just would have assumed that it was kind of junk, but I don't know for sure. I did a gig not at the festival. I have been to Glastonbury before, and I think they have quite a lot of crystal type shops and stuff there. I remember a guy telling me that he felt that the town had a sort of negative energy as a result of all the sort of witchcraft and stuff that goes on there.
Oh.
To me, it just felt like a lot of middle class people that made too much money early on and have had midlife crises and have moved out to get into crystal healing and I Ching and stuff. Well, what are you going to tell me? There's some because it seems a bit chakra-y,
Yeah.
So do tell.
Yeah. So right, well, we can talk about that too, I think. But crystals. I think the basis behind crystals is that like they have a sort of energy that you can kind of use to like help yourself for whatever it is you need. So I would be very hesitant anyone saying take this and put it on your throat and all of a sudden you're going to be able to sing opera. Like I don't think that's I don't think anyone would say that. I think that's like a little bit too far. But I think what people tend to say is like, oh, if you're really stressed, take this stone, have it on you. It'll help keep your stress levels down. And like, oh, if you're going to go, talk to someone who's really, really triggers you or really makes you angry or, makes you feel stressed, you can have, this stone, which kind of puts off, tries to get rid of negative energy or something like that. But like, obviously, the majority of people would say, like, in terms of, like, physically what is coming off of the stones, well, they're not decaying. So there isn't really usually anything coming off of them on, like, a physical energy level, like a physics side. But that's not to say that certain things don't do something. So we know that granite, like you have on your worktop, granite produces radon, which is a type of gas. It's not harmful at that level. But it is like
smash the kitchen up, get rid of it.
Well, I mean, it comes back to our detox discussions, but on a level of how much do you have in your life before it all starts to pile up. But yeah, they do produce a toxic gas called radon, and at that level, it's usually okay. But basically, granite just turns into quartz. So once the radon has had its time and it goes, and the radon's all gone, then what you have left is your quartz. I think there's a little bit more chemistry going on there as well. But like basically, granite and quartz are the same thing at different stages in their life. So it's not too far of a reach to think that perhaps some other stones also could potentially put off energy, like do something on a chemical level. But I would say that the majority of them probably aren't doing that. But there's been loads of research, and you'll probably agree with that. This is, you'll have heard this kind of thing. But if you believe something is going to help, it will help.
A placebo effect, sort of, yeah.
And it's really tangible in other areas as well. So obviously the placebo effect is one that we know. Take this pill, you'll feel great. And then you're like, oh, I feel great. But also there's other areas like if someone says, oh, this is yoga for back pain and your back is going to feel amazing if you do it, you're more likely to feel great after yoga because you've been thinking about it. But physically, you might actually be changing what you're doing because you were thinking it's going to help with your back. So when they say things in the class like, oh, squeeze your stomach muscles and you really want to, engage your stomach muscles to protect your back, you might really be focusing in on that because that is something that you were trying to help. So more focus might be what's helping as well. So not just like believing it, not just the placebo effect, but also the effect that your mind is on it constantly. So if you could put that into the idea of stones and crystals, a stone or a crystal that you're saying like, right, I'm trying to deflect or reflect all this negative energy that I'm feeling from, I don't know, my work colleagues, because they're all so drama. They've got so much drama in their life. I'm tired of hearing all their drama. I don't know. So you put on your crystal necklace and you go to work. But in the end, that's just a constant reminder that you're not going to get sucked into their drama. You're just going to be like, oh yeah. And then like, that's it. And you're not going to get pulled in emotionally. So in a sense, the stone worked, I suppose. But it depends on like, I don't know, it just depends on how you trigger it. I think a lot of the time you get these scientists that are like, oh, it's a load of tosh because of course it doesn't put out any energy. What a ridiculous thing to say. Look, I'm measuring it right now. There's nothing there. And then I think like, well, yeah, but we are not just physical. We are our brains, our emotions. There's loads of hormones going through our body all the time that affect us. It's just a big holistic ball of whoever you want to identify as. So saying that something can or can't help just because there's a physical reaction, is in a chemical reaction going on or not going on, is a bit low, a bit small. It expands the mind a bit. But that's not to say that, if someone has a serious medical issue, don't throw some stones at them. Make sure they go see a doctor. There's a balance to all of this, know.
So have you got any stones then?
No. Yeah, I have lots of stones. I can't remember where I've put them all, to be honest, because I've tidied up since we started the renovations 2 years ago, and now they're hiding in a drawer or box somewhere, which is a bit of a shame, but... Oh, we could talk about the chakras. You mentioned that.
If you want,
the centers in the body.
I mean, I haven't considered you someone that really talks about them particularly.
Yeah, I don't mention them in my yoga classes. I don't talk about chakras or things like that because I think it because of how I teach, because of how anatomical I am and how practical I am. I think I attract a certain type of people that like that, So then if I all of a sudden whoop out a class full of chakras, and people will be like, "Whoa, Kayla, that's not like you."
Yeah. I think you've had some religious conversion or something all of a sudden. So.
I know, exactly. So I tend not to talk about it, but what I tend to do is just eke it in a little bit. So like the idea behind them and stuff like that. So specifically, you could talk about your sacral chakra, which is around your belly button. So that's supposed to be your energy chakra around, energy, like having enough energy and how you feel and things like that. So particularly say for that chakra, that's also in Tai Chi, that's also your energy center. So it's in the same place, even though they're separate. It's in the same place. So that fire and that energy that like gets you going in the morning and like, yeah, I've got energy today. I'm good to go. I can, take on the world. People have that.
Crazy people.
And and we would say in yoga, when you feel balanced, that's how you feel. But on a physical level, the main part of your digestion happens there. So a lot of your actual energy that you get from your food happens in that area of your body. So it's not too weird of a leap to say that area of your body, when working properly, gives you this energy. And that is your, and then they've labeled it in ancient, in 5,000 years ago in India, they called it a chakra. But maybe today we call it your digestive system. I think it's not too much of a leap between the two ideas. And for the most part, you could do that with all of the chakras as you move through. So like your heart chakra, which is up by the chest, that's a very similar one. So that's relating to, like, you can imagine love and emotions and feelings. And when you feel a really strong emotion, where do you feel it? Well, it's up by your chest. Unless it's nausea, then it's down a little bit. But assuming you're not feeling sick from it, it's that strong sensation right in the chest, that hollow, that hole, like when we have grief and things like that, they're really strong. They're there. You feel it through the whole body, right in the center. Again, it's not too much of a leap to just call that something and to label it. And in yoga, when your chakras are good, they're said to be like in motion. So they're circular, like a constant vortex. No.
Washing machine.
Toilet bowl. Washing machine. Just like a constant circle. Like when they call it stagnating. You know, it doesn't move and it's not happening and it gets clogged and things aren't working. That's when it's not flowing very nicely. So you can use this as a way to China just as like a roadmap to how to maybe balance things out in your body to some extent in your life, because obviously they're related to both your physical body and kind of like your mind and your emotions. So they're kind of interesting, but I can see why people gear away from them because they do sound a bit foofy.
Yeah, I think like the way you introduce them there, though, it's like finding out someone that's a scientist is actually religious after a couple of years. And, that's interesting. Do you know what I mean? Like not that you can't be.
Yeah,
both,
but what
course,
I'm saying is you never have to say it. You never have to use the label, because I've said it from day one. It's in all my classes, and you're going to get it if you come to them.
Yeah.
It's always there. Just because I don't say the word chakra doesn't mean it's not there. It's always there. There's always those focuses. You know, when we say we're holding anxiety or tension or tightness in the chest, and we start trying to let that go, you're opening your heart chakra. That's just the same. You know, it's just different words to say the same thing. What I've been trying to say recently is like, if you feel unbalanced in your life, then you're putting out that chaotic energy, then that's what you're going to get back. This is what we were saying about that kind of idea of getting back what you put out. But then I always think like, sometimes people think like, oh, it's so hard to change, or it's not possible, or I just can't do it. But the natural state of things is balance. If you let it go, the natural state is going to find a balance there. So like, you know, spiral galaxies will spin, planets go around the sun, like all of that.
Well, Newtonian
kind of
type things,
balance.
you know, every action's got an equal and opposite reaction somewhere, you know.
Yeah, or Keplerian, maybe, when we're talking about spinning. Yeah.
Right, well, I don't know. I don't know who he is. He's the guy that used to hold his wee in, right? Is that?
I believe that is how he died, yes.
Because he couldn't use urinals or something, or what the...
No, because the king was in the room and you weren't allowed to leave when the king was in the room, or something weird like
that's
that.
Weird. Okay.
So he just held his wee. But I believe, because I've read the passage actually in the doctor's book, because you can find it, and I believe it said he died of causes caused by holding his wee. But the fact that it could be a bladder burst was very unlikely. I think some doctors say that it's more likely that you would actually wee yourself before the bladder would burst. Like it would come out, like you couldn't help it kind of thing. So I think what they were saying is more likely he got a bladder infection. And then obviously at that time it was before antibiotics. So they think that's what caused his death. It was a bladder infection from holding his weight. Don't hold your weight. There's the biggest.
King, what is this ridiculous differential sort
there
of
was
thing,
something to do with like political acceptance of things, and he wasn't allowed to be excused. Basically, maybe if he, I don't know, grew a pair, he could have been excused. But maybe he just thought it wasn't important enough. I don't know.
If he grew a pair, he'd have to weigh even more, wouldn't he? I don't know. Is it? I don't know if that technically what I've said is true or not. I don't know. But anyway.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Do another one. Oh shit, I just interrupted you there.
Stop interrupting me, for God's sake.
Okay, sorry.
Thanks for listening, everyone. I hope you enjoyed our podcast this month. Obviously, get in touch and reach out if you have any questions. But also, you know, just reach out and tell us what you think about it. Go to our website, social media, yada, yada, yada. See you next month.
Tell your friends, share, subscribe, like, all the buttons that make algorithms like us. Press all those buttons. See you soon.